So I'm here with the amazing Lord Ian Franklin. Ian, firstly, thank you for coming on. I really do value your time. I value your mind. I've watched and I've listened to some of your other podcasts previously, and there's such a history there with yourself in business, headhunter for many years. In the days when headhunting was headhunting, there's been a lot of changes in the whole business industry, in the leadership industry, the thought leadership industry. Things have changed, especially through the COVID period. And do you find that, why I want to ask these questions is because I'd like to talk about where is business going? Is think leadership in the business world does it still have the same value of individuality like it used to? Being someone that had to find particular types of think leaders for particular industries. Do you find that we have deteriorated as think leaders?
That's an exceedingly good question. Thank you very much for inviting me to be interviewed. But coming from very much a former generation of business leaders, going back into starting off with the very, very late 1970s into the 1980s and 90s, when in particular technology wasn't as profound as it is these days. Leadership and management was exactly that. There was a lot more ranking in those days, a lot more authoritarianism than there is these days. There's a lot more discipline in business than you get these days. These days, everything seems to be very much in the context of ruled by technology, ruled by AI, and they are the managers in the form of technology rather than the individuals and the humans themselves.
Has that created, though, a deterioration in the quality of think as human beings, as leading human beings?
I don't think it's a deterioration. I think it's a totally different mode of thinking.
That's interesting. A different mode of thinking.
Yeah, it's a different mode of thinking, particularly in the context of the generations who are in business today, are very much those who have been absorbed into the way of generational technological thinking that we have.
Yeah.
And it just kind of carries on. It's a totally different thought. It's no deterioration. I don't think it is deterioration. I think it is just totally different thoughts, different modes, different ways of creating. Management these days tends to be a lot younger in age when you're talking about humans these days than it was in the 1980s.
But have we matured then? Have we matured in a sense of, oh, we're all good. We're all good. We can come through, man. No worries. So have we, as managers and even as leaders, because you say that they become younger, is that because they're maturing quicker, or is it because the older leaders, we could say thought leaders, absolutely are not interested in that position anymore?
No, there are a lot more incentives to succeed and achieve these days.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many new sectors to work in, so many new disciplines to work in, so many new job titles to work with, so many types of, there's a lot of variation in the way people work these days. And, we're not dismissing people who were perhaps from my generation. Because there are a lot of people from the former generations who are still existing in business today and doing very, very well for themselves. But the younger people are being incentivized a lot more these days to succeed and to earn a lot more money, to achieve and so on in so many different sectors. And of course, technology is the main thing, because that is a sector in itself, as we all know. The wealthiest people in the world are from technology. Whereas in the days in the 1980s and in the 1990s, the wealthiest people were arguably the bankers, and that was a marketplace that I worked in.
So do you think, Ian, that business in itself, the module of what business, because remember, it's a lot of authenticity, loyalty, honor. These are ingredients that were considered, the deep-rooted success layers that created business. Do you think that that is not as powerful, as spiritual as what it used to be in the business?
I would agree with you. I would agree. I mean, there is a totally different idea of mindset, totally different ideas of, I mean, you used the word spiritual. There is a lot of that in the way people are thinking, progressing now.
And do you think that was
in days of old? It used to be purely analytical, and people were cutting down everything bit by bit in order to succeed and progress. Spiritualization really didn't come into it in the same way as it does these days.
I love that you branded in that way. Spiritualization, wasn't something that you go back in the 70s. It would consider a kind of, an off the wall thing to bring into business conversation. But now we're seeing that, people are more spiritual now they think in business. But also, is that a weakness?
No, I don't think it is.
I'm well done for saying that.
I wouldn't say I'm spiritual myself.
Yeah.
If you think back again, the previous generation, spiritual probably really meant more in the context of religion. These days, it means so many different things. Many areas, so many new skills, and so many new professions have been set up. And excuse me, and under wellness, and under healing, and under retreats, you name it. And there's totally different ways that people meditate and the way that they concentrate cerebrally in how they progress forward. How I look at this is, yes, I am from a former generation. I mean, I'm nearly 70, so I look at from quite an old point of view. But at the same time, I'm working all the time with people in their 30s, their 40s, and their early 50s. So I've tried to create that sort of mindset within myself.
You're the full scope of open-mindedness, because you said there, Paul, I'm in my 70s or 70, but yet you were talking here like a 30-year-old, which is a compliment and also a statement of your character, to be that rounded in how you think and not be stuck fast into, as you say, those period of business thinking, which of course was back 20, 30, 40 years ago, maybe.
I appreciate that, but at the same time, it's not a case of being forced into the mindset that I have, but it's a case of my survival. That I know I have to embrace what we've got out there today to be able to continue succeeding.
I find it very honoring that you put the word survival out there, when effectively you have that personality about you that knows how to pivot, that knows how to embrace, the human being over human doing. And we touched on this before coming on camera, which was the difference in human doing and human being. And I realized if we go back into the 70s, 80s, we were human doing business people. Now we have flipped back to becoming human beings within the business world, you think?
Yeah, I think that will occur. I mean, one can start talking about technology again and start talking about things like AI, ChatGPT, and everything else that everybody's talking about at the current time. I can try and say that, without opinion, I think that, we will revert back to traditional thinking at some stage or other. When that will happen, I have
traditional thinking.
Yeah.
Wow, isn't it crazy? It's almost like we buy organic food and we traditionally think. It's almost as if it's a kind of, wow, someone's traditionally thinking.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Kind of mental recycling.
but it is. It's somewhat, I think, the business world is striving forward fast, but also I think as much as we becoming spiritual, I think the word spirituality also is becoming watered down.
Yes.
In its truest sense.
Yes.
And we are covering up what is still the human doing of us by saying, well, I'm a spiritual person also.
Yeah.
It is a loss there's a camouflage, do you think, that's going on in order to gain kudos or credibility as an open-minded person?
I think that's an exceedingly good point that you make there. And I understand the question that you made, and thinking about it on the spur of the moment, yes, there probably is that sort of overcoat. Yeah,
and it is, and when you think about it, you also think, wow, that's quite a big statement to make, to say that that there are spiritual people that are not really spiritual, but they want to be,
Yeah.
and they've yet to learn that inner part. They've yet to understand that interpersonal part of themselves, because, you know.
And that's why, without being arrogant in any way, but this is why the business world needs more people from all generations to understand what all generational thinking has been and is thinking and what will be thought.
Wow, all generational thinking. Again, you bring these, you put these statements in that are massive. All generational thinking. Think about how powerful that is. You know, what is all generational thinking? What does that even look like?
Yes. With entrepreneurialism, there are still a lot of old school entrepreneurs like myself out there. Some are.
I wouldn't see you as old school, by the way.
But there again, if I may name names also on this, some well-known names. You talk about Branson.
Yeah.
Branson is the archetypal entrepreneur. We all know who he is, what he's done, what he's achieved, what he succeeded in, what he hasn't succeeded in.
Yeah.
But the guy is in his mid-70s, so he still has that sort of approach to move forward.
Yeah.
Going into space, as a lot of the other entrepreneurs are doing. And another one is Dyson, the vacuum cleaner man, as I call it.
Yeah.
But one of the wealthiest people in the UK, arguably one of the wealthiest in the world. And he's now in his mid-70s. He is the archetypal entrepreneur. He's sourced opportunities. He found opportunities. He failed. He succeeded. He succeeded, and he failed. And he failed, and he succeeded. The family is now taking on that as the generations go down in the same way as Branson's is. And so there's that sort of going back to mindset. The mindset is in the genes for it to go into the children.
That is interesting. The mindset is in the genes, and that interests me again, because again we're talking about legacy here. Not just a pass on of business. We're talking about a pass on of your heart, the emotional part of you, which clearly you have a very deep understanding of, and because of the conversation we're having here, and again, what you're opening up is the importance of spirituality, the importance of what is old business, new business, and how we marry these now in order to sustain what is the quality of future business. Because I'd like to say that there are less people that are interested in the money within business now, and that are more interested in how they leave a legacy to increase the emotional economy of our lives. I'd like to say that that is what I'm seeing.
Money is a result rather than a target.
Is it a good result?
Yeah. We can be, obviously.
Well, it gives us choice. It gives us choices.
It gives us choices, gives us opportunities, gives us the opportunity to do whatever we need or want to do. We talk about previous generations. In the generations of the 80s, and particularly when I was starting out as a headhunter in 1982, those are the days of the Thatcher boom periods. And there was a lot of money about. The bankers were earning stupid amounts of money, which was totally uncapped. Their bonuses every year. The Ferrari showrooms, the restaurants really loved their business in the major money districts like the City of London and so on. So money was a target back in those days. These days, it's a result of what you do. The love is really in how you achieve it and what the routes, what the critical path is in order to get to there at the end of the day. I don't think, in my mind, now I may be wrong on this, but I don't think that if you take a lot of the wealthiest people in the world, people like Elon Musk, people like Jeff Bezos, and not so much Warren Buffett, because he comes from my generation, but one or two of the others who particularly come from technology. It's technology that made them wealthy rather than themselves that necessarily made them wealthy.
So it's an external wealth, not an internal wealth, we could say.
And also a lot of the wealthiest people in the world do have certain mental abilities. There may be an element of introversion that they have, and
That is
other conditions
so
as well.
insightful that you said there, you know, that element of introversion.
Well, Musk himself it's been said that he has Asperger's.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jeff Bezos is an introvert.
Yeah.
And
Wow. And when we think about that, those emotional layers, you know, in making money, you know, it's effectively then they designed an engine. From that engine called business, the byproduct is they make money.
Yeah.
But effectively, they are making money outwardly then. They're not making money inwardly. They're not making life currency, they're making money currency. Nothing wrong with this, but we're looking at the layers here of business. And if we think about right now, modern day business person, do you think that, you know, people are more interested in making emotional life currency for themselves first, then from that to make the money currency, where if we back...
It depends on the sector you're in, I think. In technology, no. I think that technology comes first. The design of what you're doing, the design of AI and new software and hardware and whatever else they're producing. Yeah. That's what that's the passion of the individuals who work in that business. Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, is a prime example of that. He's forever creating Meta and beyond. And so, it's technology is their passion, it's what they do. It's all they live, breathe, and sleep about. Whereas there are still other markets, there are still other sectors out there. I mentioned Dyson earlier, and doing what he does. He does it for the absolute love of what he creates, but also what he's able to do with after it's been created.
Wow.
And Branson is probably the same. And he's a good example here, because Branson has grown the Virgin Group. He's got other interests. He's gone into space, or he's going into space, and he's also got something that is the absolute love of his life, and that's his island in the Caribbean, Necker Island. And that's probably the biggest love that he has, more so than the rest of the whole of the business empire.
So if we were to look Ian at the true ingredient of what makes someone successful. And I don't want to keep using the word business, but we're on this conversation. Would you say it's really the interpersonal part of that individual? Having, like, Branson's got high interpersonal skills. I wouldn't, and I might be sticking my neck out here, I wouldn't say Branson's an amazing business person. He has amazing interpersonal skills. He really knows how to get the best out of individuals.
He does.
And, and there's a lot of business people that do not. Yes. They micromanage themselves. They haven't done the work on themselves to emotionally understand the people you're working with. Branson has that skill.
Yes.
Would you say that the modern business person now really has to appreciate that value in themselves and work on that before anything else?
I think in a lot of situations that is the case. Yes, very much so. One thing I've noticed over recent years, probably the last 10, 15 years at the most, is interpersonal skills are reducing. Unless you speak the same language of the individual. Technology is a prime example of that. But
how is that reducing?
I sort of look at it with a headhunter's hat on and try and understand what people are trying to think about, what they're trying to understand, what they're trying to appreciate, what they're trying to gain out of others. How can they make people help them, as well as how they can help others? There's a lot of reciprocation.
Yeah.
And it's reduced a lot over recent times.
Wow. I mean, AI obviously is a part to play in what reduces those soft skills in individuals. I remember my daughter telling me, "Dad, I love you, but here's the thing. I learned my sense of humor from my phone. Yeah. My kudos are what tells me how much I love myself today or tomorrow. Yeah. As much as I love you, Dad, the phone, I brought myself up on the phone, even though I'm there for my daughters and I've been a full-time dad." That realization. And I'll share this with you because I interviewed she's 24 now. I interviewed my daughter when she was 19 on the radio show. And I asked her, I said, "What is one of your biggest fears moving forward?" She said, "Well, Dad, that someone of my era is going to run a country at some point." Yes. And I actually broke down, Ian, with that statement, is that she's 19 telling me that someone of her era is going to run a country at some point. And that is perhaps a very shaky thing to say, but very true.
Yeah.
Because, they've not experienced what we experienced. I'm 55. So that I know a time without phones, without technology, without computers. Yeah. I remember that. But, where do you think the quality then of leadership, and I'm talking country leadership even if we want to go that far, do you think that quality is going to deplete? because they just haven't had the emotional
I
experience.
think this goes back to what we were saying earlier: is mental recycling and generational recycling. I think yes, there is going to be a bit of depletion, but on the other hand, there's going to be a time. There's got to be a time at some stage in the future when new entrepreneurs who appear in the market, appear out there, people who are employing people, especially quite a lot of people, have got to think about the traditional ways of management. They're going to be brought into courses, academic courses like MBAs and so on, more so than they are now. MBAs were very, if you excuse the term, sexy in the 1980s and the 1990s. You didn't get on unless you did an MBA. Not so many people are, to my knowledge, are doing MBAs these days, not in the way that they used to. And
is academia that important?
But academia isn't that important because a lot of industries, a lot of professions are relying on people to learn. And you do learn every day anyway. We all know that. But at the same time, academia is important, but it's not an incentive. It's not an encouragement, especially how expensive it can be to go to university. Apprenticeships, you don't have to work an apprenticeship on a factory floor. You can work an apprenticeship in almost any profession, any discipline. And they're more exciting, I think, these days, than doing a university degree. That's my own personal opinion. But that gets you across the line in order to be able to learn and succeed.
Lord Ian Franklin, you are such an interesting individual. I could
you.
talk to you all day long. I really could, because we could deep dive these philosophies all day long. I think there's a whole 10 series here for sure. It's beautiful. And listen, we've come here today. We're at the Elite Breakfast event. How important do you think these events are, in bringing together the amazing minds that are pushing forward business?
Absolutely critical. We all live behind a screen these days. We all talk with each other on Zoom and Google Meets and whichever product we use. Physical interaction, being together in the same room, shaking hands with people, and so on is first and foremost it's cutting down those boundaries of it doesn't matter whether you speak to these people every day, but actually physical interaction is, as I say, demolishing those boundaries in order to find out more about whoever is doing what. And events like this are absolutely important.
Chrissy Khan, we love it a bit. We absolutely do. It's fantastic to be here. And Lord Ian Franklin, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your mind and your heart. Sharing your mind and your heart. There's so many beautiful golden nuggets in here that's going to be shared for generations out on YouTube and wherever else it's going to go. But I really appreciate your time. I value who you are. I value your heart. And please keep doing interviews. We need your literature. We need your heart, and we need your philosophies. It's been fantastic. Let's do this.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And what can I say? We've got plenty more coming along here, but what a start. I mean, how do we follow that? Do you know what I mean? Catch you later.